Hello, Shadowcat back, and for today's message, I don't have anything really extensive to talk about, but it's an important message all the same. And it probably shouldn't be a long one because I want to get this done and out of here before my little recording studio here grows to a high enough temperature that it can actually start melting lead and desoldering the components in my computer. So here's hoping. Here's also hoping that I don't get a caravan of motorcycles that go by the house. So if you hear an entire caravan of motorcycles, it's because that's what it is. It's a busy road. Anyway, what I want to talk about today is differences in principles. And I think that first off, we should start off by simply talking about what are principles. I mean, we've mentioned them before in other things such as laws and in culture videos, discussions like that. What are principles? I don't have the definition pulled up, but principles in general are just rules. They're the rules that we choose to live by. We have different principles that govern our moral codes, different principles that govern our legal codes. They're the underlying reasons why we do the things we do. I mean, we have laws on the books that say that we are not allowed to do things like steal. Well, why do we have laws that say that we shouldn't steal? It's because we have underlying principles that say stealing is wrong. Generally speaking, we have these underlying principles because we say we would not want to be stolen from. Therefore, we should not do this, and we should even enforce not doing this. Now, why do I bring up principles right now? Well, the reason I do so is because if you've been paying attention to the news in even the smallest amount, you may have heard a few weeks ago now, I know, I'm late to the game on this one. It took me a while to figure out how I wanted to do this video. But you may have heard that there was a leak from the Supreme Court talking about the Roe v. Wade case. Now, Roe v. Wade was a decision made by the Supreme Court that dictated that the states could not bar abortion up to like the first trimester. There's a lot more details to it, and I'm not going to go into them here. If you really want to get into the weeds on the Roe v. Wade and abortion debate, trust me, you have no end to sources on both sides in which you can listen to arguments. What I want to talk about right here has been the response to it. And I want to talk about the response to the response. So, let me make an explanation here. When the leak came down, immediately there was a response. And the response was primarily from the pro-abortion left, who came out with signs and banners and bullhorns saying that this could not be allowed to stand, and no, we can't do it, okay? This should never be allowed to even be discussed. It's already been decided. And furthermore, to actually go about and reverse this now would be a human rights violation that we could take to the Nuremberg trials. It's that egregious. There has been violence because of it. There has been arson because of it. There has been vandalism because of it. It's been bad. And one of the things that was brought up, and a lot of people seem to have a hard time understanding, is the fact that the same group of people, not exactly one-to-one, but by and large, the majority of these people, also happen to be the same people who, when COVID was still raging across the world, were the ones saying that you needed to get the vaccine. In fact, they went so far as to say that people who did not get the vaccine did not deserve to be allowed to participate in society. They were the ones that said, no job or no jab, no job. Very clever. So if you don't want, or if you want to work, get the vaccine. If you don't want to get the vaccine, then you do not have the right to threaten the rest of the world with your disease-ridden, plague-filled body. So, on the one hand, they were saying that you must get the vaccine. It doesn't matter what your personal feelings are, get it. But now that the whole Roe v. Wade thing is up, what are we seeing from them now? My body, my choice. Or we see no uterus, no opinion. Or other various slogans like that. Now, here's the heart of it, and that's why I wanted to get to my little visual aid here. And it's very nice. How is it that the same people who are saying my body, my choice when it comes to abortion were also the same ones that said get the vaccine regardless of what your ideals were? That's what we have this for. This is a chessboard. Most people should recognize one, even if you've never played chess before. And if you've never played chess before, I'm going to give you a very, very, less than 1 minute explanation of how chess works. This is a pawn. They go straight forward, and they move one at a time. That's it. All they do is march forward. This is a rook. Rooks move in two directions as far as they want or can. They go vertically, or they go horizontally until they either hit a wall, or they hit another piece. Or you decide to stop them. This is a knight. Knights move in a peculiar way. They either move 1 and then 2 left or right, or they can move 2 and then 1 left or right. And they can do that in whichever of the 4 directions they want. This is a bishop. They're similar to rooks, except that they move diagonally instead of horizontally. This is a queen. It combines the bishop and the rook. She can move in straight lines any direction she wants, as far as she wants, or until she gets another piece. This is the king. It's like a queen. It moves in every direction, but like a pawn, it only moves 1. So, those are your pieces, and that is how you play chess. Granted, that is a very, very superficial way of how you play chess. There's a great deal of strategy we're not going to get into. It's not important. So, right now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to play a very short game of chess. And I promise this will make sense shortly. Now, in chess, the white side always goes first, to its detriment or benefit. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move this pawn forward, just like that. Alright, white has moved. Let's turn the board around, and we're going to play the black side. Well, black is also going to move a pawn forward. Very nice. Now, white is going to use this opportunity to get, let's say, this bishop out here. Okay? Very nice. Now, this bishop can come out, this one cannot because it can't move through the pieces. That's why you can either go to hit the board or you hit another piece. Now, black is going to make a move. And for black's move, black is going to take this bishop and it's going to come out here and knock this bishop over. And now that bishop is off the board. Okay, so now white has lost its bishop. So we're going to come around here to the white side. White is going to try moving its queen out to here. Now, this might have been a good move had it still had its bishop there, setting up for the scholar's mate. But now that it's moved out, black is going to take this rook, come over here, and remove the queen. So, the black rook has now captured the white queen. White is now in a very, very bad location right now. Because with these two pieces here, black has made a great deal of ingress against white's side of the board. Needing to get another piece out, we're going to go ahead and take this knight, and we're going to capture that rook, since it took our queen. And now, we're simply going to, well, let's finish this up. We're going to take this pawn here, and since there's a clear path, we're going to use this pawn to topple the king. And just like that, black has won. Like I said, this is going to be a very short game. Now, anyone who has ever played chess before is probably screaming right now. because that was stupid. Obviously, that ignored pretty much all the rules in chess. I mean, White was playing by the rules. White made every single legal move it could. Black, however, did not. Pieces cannot move through other pieces. Bishops cannot move horizontally. Rooks cannot move diagonally. Pawns certainly cannot move all the way across the board in whatever pattern this would have been. And the king never actually leaves the board. If your king is in checkmate, you simply knock your king over. But the reason why I wanted to do it this way is because I wanted to point out that one side of the board was playing by the rules. The other one was not. That should be obvious. And now we're left with, what do we do afterwards? Well, now from the white side, we can yell at the black side and say, okay, you weren't following the rules. It doesn't count. What you did doesn't matter. You can't say that you won the game. You weren't following the rules. However, what white fails to consider and fails to understand is that the black side never cared about the rules to begin with. Black was never going to follow the rules of chess. It didn't care about the rules to chess. This is why I wanted to get into principles. We believe in principles. We believe that there is a way that we should be acting. Okay? That is what principles are. You can't have principles for other people. You can only have principles for yourself. Principles say, this is the way that I should be carrying on my life. But the way we should be carrying on our life doesn't really matter, because if there's other people who disagree, then the way we carry on our life may simply be untenable. We can do our best to abide by our own principles, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. The reason why I bring this up is because right now, when we look at the protests going on at the Roe v. Wade protest, or the courthouse, the judges' houses, all that stuff, I hear a lot of people saying that the left are being hypocrites, okay? They say, you're standing out there saying, my body, my choice. Well, when it came to vaccines, why wasn't it my body, my choice then? You're being hypocrites. Okay? They say that they're not even abiding by their own words, okay? If it's my body, my choice, or if people have to get the vaccines, regardless of what they actually feel, then how come we cannot outlaw abortion at the state level? Because keep in mind, the whole Roe v. Wade thing was saying that the federal government, or the state, no, hold on, let me back up. Roe v. Wade said the state governments could not make abortion illegal because of privacy laws. Overturning Roe v. Wade would simply kick it back to the state level, meaning that any states that wanted to could absolutely uphold Roe v. Wade and their own state boundaries. But they're saying that if you can mandate a vaccine, how come we can't mandate that abortions be illegal? If you assume that the people you're arguing with are doing so in good faith and from the same set of principles, this absolutely looks like hypocrisy. And to be sure, if you were to suddenly say, if you had been anti-abortion the entire time, and suddenly you said, no, actually, we should simply be allowing all abortions all the time, from conception all the way up to 9 months, that might actually make you a hypocrite. But, and this is going to be important, in order for something to be hypocrisy, you have to be taking an action, and it has to be you taking an action. You cannot necessarily passively be a hypocrite. You can be, but it's really fuzzy. In order for something to be hypocrisy, you must be doing something that is exactly counter to your own principles. And I say it has to be counter to your own principles because we cannot call criminals hypocrites. A bank robber cannot be called a hypocrite for robbing a bank even though it's against the law, unless the bank robber also believes that robbing banks is bad. And that's possible. It's absolutely possible. We do have criminals out there who acknowledge that what they're doing is wrong, and they may say that, well, I have no other options, I have nothing else I can do, this is the only thing that I know how to do. It's hypocrisy, it's understandable, but it still comes back to principles. Now, the difference here is that a criminal who is acknowledging their hypocrisy is at least admitting that they have principles, and their principles are the same as yours. When we're dealing with the people who right now are protesting the Roe v. Wade decision, which isn't even come down yet, they don't have your principles. And that's one of the things that I've been trying really hard to get people to understand. The reason why these people can come out and say, my body, my choice, and they can say vaccine mandate, is because they do not see bodily autonomy as a universal principle. Most of the people who are making this argument are saying, if bodily autonomy is a principle, if you own your body, then one of these things has to go. Either it is my body, my choice, and I don't need to get the vaccine, or the vaccine mandate stands and abortion is illegal. You cannot be both at the same time and maintain bodily autonomy. What they fail to understand, what they fail to grasp, is that these people that are protesting do not believe in bodily autonomy. They don't. What they believe in is power. Let's understand something. When they say my body, my choice, what they're saying is, you cannot tell me what to do. Okay? Whether it's abortion, whether it's a vaccine mandate, or whether it's simply a diet, what they're saying is, you cannot tell me what to do with my body. You cannot tell me that I cannot get an abortion. You cannot tell me that I must get a shot. You cannot even tell me what I need to eat. Because it's me, and it's my power, not yours. You do not have power over me. But when we flip the tables, they believe that I am a powerful individual and I have power over you. And what this comes down to is morals. Morals, well, hold on, let me back up. The same way that principles are the basis for rule and law, morals are the basis for principle. So what we have here are people who have morals, and their morals are, I am doing what I believe is right. And that is all that morals are. Morals are simply, I'm doing what I believe is right, or this is what I believe is right. They have their morals, we have ours. Everyone has their own individual morals. And then from that springs up principles. So if I have the morals that what I am doing is right, then it's very likely that I'm going to have a principle that I should be enforcing what I believe is right. After all, if I'm not doing that, then what am I doing really? If you believe that you are morally superior in some way, that everything that you're doing is right, for whatever the reasons are, and you can make up your own reasons. This is one of the reasons why being morally consistent is such a big deal. Because if you simply believe that what you're doing is right because you're the one doing it and you are on the right side, then your principles will follow. It means that you no longer have to necessarily believe in things like bodily autonomy. You can believe that you have the right to an abortion and you have the right to mandate vaccines at the same time. And it's not hypocrisy at that point. You are abiding by your principles. You are abiding by your morals. This is one of the reasons why culture has become such a prominent issue. Because what is culture if not a collection of morals, principles, and values? When you have one person who believes that they are on the right side, then you have one person. When you have an entire culture now that also believes that, you can have activist groups, you can have governmental bodies, you can have militias, you can have any number of things, all of whom are following the same set of principles. Right now, we have activist groups and we have protest groups who are all believing that they have the absolute right to abortion. Many of them, as I said, were also pro-vaccine mandate. We could also extend this to things like militias, who are willing to go out and enforce this principle. We can have governmental bodies who believe these principles and seek to enshrine them in law. At which point, the hypocrisy of it doesn't really matter because your principles are being overruled by law, unless you can do something about it. This is something that I've been trying to get people to understand. Because if you can't grasp this part, then you're going to be stuck in this place where all you see is hypocrisy and you can't find solutions. And what are the solutions? Well, we'll get to that in just a second. Another thing that I wanted to bring up. I wanted to bring up religion for a moment. And no, don't, hold on. It's not like that, I promise. I wanted to bring up religion because we have three Abrahamic religions. We have Christianity, we have Judaism, and Islam. And we have a very, very similar thing between the three of them. Follow me here. So if you are Jewish, you are supposed to follow something called, if I'm pronouncing this right, the kashrut? Kashrut? I'm not sure. I don't speak Hebrew. But it's the kashrut dietary laws. In other words, kosher food. And I just happen to have a list here. I'm not going to go through the entire list because it's not that long. Who knows? I might. So, according to the kashrut, kosher. So, according to kosher dietary laws, Jewish people can eat animals that have two qualities. They have cloven hooves, so two-toed, and they chew a cud, with the exception of swarming rodents. If any land animal does not have the above qualities, it is considered forbidden. So kosher animals include cattle, sheep, goats, deer, and bison. However, you cannot eat camels, rock badgers, rabbits, pigs, etc. They're forbidden because they lack one of those two qualities. Seafoods, they can eat animals that have fins and scales. So you can eat fish, but you can't eat shellfish. Which is fine because shellfish are bottom feeders and don't eat bottom feeders. That goes for catfish too. You know who you are. Birds. Birds are kind of weird. You're allowed to eat chickens, geese, ducks, turkeys. You're not allowed to eat eagles, owls, pelicans, vultures, storks, or their eggs. Doesn't really give a reason, it just says don't do it. Fruits and vegetables, all fruits and vegetables are fine. It's fine, whatever. You can have an apple. But that's kosher. Now, if you are Jewish, and you decide that you are going to have some bacon, and yes, there are many Jews out there who enjoy their bacon. You know who you are. And bacon is sometimes tasty, but don't eat too much of it. Is it hypocrisy? Yes, it is hypocrisy. You are Jewish. You are supposed to be abiding by the Torah, and you are supposed to be abiding by the kashrut, whatever. It is hypocrisy. And it may be a sin, I don't know. I'm not exactly up on Judaism. I'm not sure if that counts as a sin or not. Regardless, though, you're not following the rules, you're not following the principles, and presumably there is some moral reason why you're not supposed to have bacon. I don't know what it is, but I have to assume. But what if a Christian has a piece of bacon? Is that Christian being hypocritical? The answer is no. Even though the Jew may say you're not supposed to be eating that, the fact is that Christians do not share the idea of kosher food. They just don't. And so it's not a matter of hypocrisy. It's not even really a matter of blasphemy or heresy. They do not share the same principles. They do not share the same rules. And the Jew can talk about how, you may be going to hell because you've been eating pork, and the Christian is going to go to bed and sleep soundly for the rest of the night because it's just not important. And why would it be? On the other side, we also have Islam. Now, Islam has their own food restriction. It's called halal. And I brought up the rules of halal. So, in order for an animal to be halal, they don't have the same restrictions, as far as I know, on what kinds of animals. For example, I'm guessing that in Islam, you can eat a camel. I'm not sure why you'd want to. They don't look particularly tasty. I figure that bad mood probably makes the meat awful. But I'm pretty sure you can eat one if you needed to. However, in order for it to be halal, Allah's name must be pronounced during the slaughter. The instrument must be very sharp to ensure a humane slaughter, and it must be cut at the throat. The animal must not be unconscious when it was slaughtered. It must be hung upside down and allowed to bleed dry. And these steps must be accomplished by a Muslim or people of the book. So Christians or Jews can also do this. And it also says that many observant Muslims also find kosher meat acceptable, but I'll get to that in a second. Oh, and the animal must have been fed a natural diet that did not contain animal byproducts. So, I mean, you get what that means. So that means that if you were to have a Muslim take a cow and slaughter it the way that we usually do here, which is usually by bolt gun, or, similar things like that, that would not be halal. Okay? That also means that and I am an atheist, were to follow all of these steps, the meat would also not be halal, because I am not Muslim. And you must be one of those people. But does that mean that if a Muslim were to eat meat that I slaughtered, would that make them a hypocrite? It would. It absolutely would. Because it's not following those laws. What if I were to eat something they had prepared? Would that somehow make me a hypocrite in my non-belief? Well, no, it wouldn't, because these are not my principles. What if a Jew was to eat it? Well, again, we go back to what is kosher. If they had slaughtered a cow in halal fashion, well, then there you go. Cows are on the kosher list. So, not hypocrisy, everything's good, everything's above board. What if it was a camel? Now it is hypocrisy. Different values, different principles, and you're not following them. And I apologize if I sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, although given the subject matter, that might not have been the most apt metaphor to use. But I just want to kind of drive the point home. Having principles, following principles, or not following them is what defines hypocrisy. And I want to bring this back now to politics and culture, because this is what we really need to find important, or what I need you to take away from this. When we look at the news, when we follow politics and these various things, and we see what we call hypocrisy, it's important that we couch that accusation of hypocrisy with a better understanding of who we're accusing of being hypocritical and whether or not they're being consistent with their own actions. For example, when we look at the leftist protests over abortion, and we say, you're saying my body, my choice now, but where were you when it was vaccines? Again, they don't actually value bodily autonomy. They don't value it in people other than themselves, which means that they don't value bodily autonomy in general. What they value is power and control. And that is not going to be, I do not want that to come across as a judgment statement, okay? Let's face it, we all value power and control, okay? Does that mean that we all want to go out and start our very own Fourth Reich? No. But I'm going to wager that you either have a bedroom, you have an apartment, you have a house, you have a condo, you live somewhere. And I'm going to wager that inside of wherever you live, you value your power and control. It is your territory. No one is allowed to come into your territory and tell you what you must do, where you must go, or how to live. So don't be too judgmental when we talk about this, because we all value power and control. If somebody else were to come into our space, we would absolutely exercise value and control, or power and control over them. We will allow them latitudes, of course. I mean, if we have guests over, we're not going to run them like the military. But we also have the power and control that if we need to, we could remove that person from our territory, or have them removed by the proper authorities. We're not all, we're not all innocent in this. What I think is important to remember is that the left, they value power and control over bodily autonomy. So you can pretty much forget that one. I mean, remember the old saying that whenever somebody has a statement with a but in it, you can pretty much ignore the first half of that statement? Well, the left views bodily autonomy, but they also value power. Okay? Make that real easy there. The left values power. When it benefits them, they seek to uphold their own bodily autonomy, and when it benefits them, they seek to curtail yours. I mean, what was that phrase? When I am weak, I ask you for freedom because it is according to your values. When I am strong, I take your freedom because it is according to mine. It's all about power. So what do we do about it? I mean, I did say that I was going to come back to that in the end, and I'm going to, because it's getting very hot in here, and I'm kind of running out of time. After all, I don't want my boards to, desolder themselves, like I said. It's going to get hotter than the sun. What do we do about it? Well, unfortunately, there is nothing you can do about them. Okay? And I mean that. You cannot do anything about them. And I'm going to go back to religion on this one, because they have been trying to do that and make that work for millennia. Okay? It does not matter how much the Jews say you are not allowed to eat a camel. The Muslims will still be slaughtering halal camels. It does not matter how the Muslims say you must slaughter the cow. The Muslims, not the Muslims, the Jews are not going to care so long as the meat is still kosher. And the Christians are still going to be sitting over there at the big table with a ham, a pork chop, a rump roast, and a side of bacon. Okay? These things are not going to change. So what do you do about them? Well, you have two options. Number one, you can kill the other side and force them into obedience either through terror, pain, or extermination. Because after all, if they don't exist anymore, then they can't be committing heresy. How's that working out? Oh, that's right. We had like 12 different crusades between the Christians and the Muslims, and both of them are still around. And pretty much everyone in the world has taken a whack at the Jews, and somehow they're still around too. So why don't we just agree that the whole, holy war thing isn't working? Alright, so conflict is out. What else can we do then? Well, we can also do what the Abrahamic religions have done and separate. Christians went to one place, Muslims went to another place, and Jews wandered around for about 400 years until they landed in Israel. Okay, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but come on, it's a joke. Laugh. Do it. Point is, they separated, they maintained their distances for the most part. It's a little bit hairy in some places. But they're all still alive, they're all still flourishing, and they're making it work. Unfortunately, that is the same way that we have to handle the political conflict in Western civilizations, primarily between the progressive left and the conservative right. The last video I did talked about how the progressive left has basically become a religion unto itself anyway. It acts that way, it's structured that way, it treats everything like a religion. We may as well accept it as such, which means that in order for us to really deal with this, we're going to have to separate from them like a religion. You can't argue somebody out of faith. I mean, you can, but those are astronomical odds and it almost never happens. We can't count on that. We just need to put distance between us. Now, what does that look like? I don't know. It looks like civil war, probably. But there may be other ways around that. Hopefully there is, because that would be bad for everybody. But it is the only option left. The fact is that if you have one group that believes in bodily autonomy and one group that doesn't, you can't mix. One group says live and let live, the other one says do what I say. They're incompatible. The same thing goes for almost any issue. You can take the immigration debate. One group says open borders, one group says national sovereignty. There's not a whole lot of middle ground in there. And so it's either conflict or separation. That's where we have to go. Now, how's it going to work out? I can't say. It's possible we have a peaceful separation. It would be nice. We'll have to wait and see how that turns out. But there's no mending this. So we have to prepare for what we're going to do next. And the first step to preparing to fix the problem, before actually fixing the problem, is you have to recognize it's there. If there is a hole in the boat and you will not even look at the water in the bottom of the boat, how can you fix the hole? You have to recognize the problem before you can fix it. And so that's what I'm hoping that I can do here. I'm going to go ahead and leave it off there, though. I hope that gives you something to think about. If you have your own thoughts, well, not if you have your own thoughts, you of course have your own thoughts, you're smart people. Leave a comment down below. If you're enjoying this kind of thing, subscribe. I'm trying to do more of these, but sometimes it takes a while for me to collect my thoughts and put them into a video. So subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you're here for every video when they come out. Share this video with anyone else you think might need to hear it, and trust me, there are a lot of people out there that need to hear this. There really are. So share the video out. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. Leave those comments down below. I'll see you next time for the next message. Until then, take care.